Hello, ladies and gentlemen, everything in between. Welcome back to GEEXX Plays. Now, this is a bit unusual for a GEEXX Plays episode because normally I will play the video game to give you an idea of how the game plays, what it looks like, so on and so forth. I don't think I can really do that here for a couple of reasons. But today I want to talk about the game called Dispatch. Now, the premise of the game is that you are a retired superhero who's working as a dispatcher for a superhero company who rents out their superheroes for stuff. You know, protection, rescuing cat from trees, escort duty, that type of stuff. Being the new guy in the team, he is basically given the worst people, the worst superheroes that the company has. There's more to it than that. There's more story involved. You know, episode one, the game is broken up into like 8 episodes, 8 chapters. Chapter 1 is like the origin, why he's retiring, and how he gets the job. Episode 2 is like his early days on the job. And then it's only 8 episodes. This is a very, very short thing. I beat this in less than 8 hours. So very short. But a majority of that time is spent just watching the animation. This is a choose your own adventure cartoon with some video game elements thrown in. Essentially what happens is you will watch some cartoon stuff, do a little bit of video game. Just the dispatching is where you're playing the video game, where you get like the city map. There are little icons that show up and say, okay, send someone here, send someone here. They'll give you like a brief kind of what the mission is about. You got to select from your roster of heroes and their abilities to see it, make them match the mission to make the mission successful. If their abilities don't really match, mission can fail. Your heroes can get injured. They get, if they spend too much time, they have to rest in between missions. They're not too fatigued. Little stuff like that. Each hero has their own strengths and weaknesses, combat, defense, intelligence, charisma, speed. They've got their little like icon with like a point grid showing where their strengths and weaknesses are. And all the heroes have their own personalities, and they will comment during missions and things like that. So I really loved this. It was just so well written. I in some ways, and sometimes it was so well written that I couldn't stop playing. But there were others that were so well written that I actually didn't want to play again. When you think I got attached to these characters. When I thought something was going to happen to one of the characters, and then in the next episode, I was afraid to start the next episode up because it was like my heart was pounding. It's like, what's going to happen? Is that character going to be okay? I got really attached to these characters, and it's like I said, it's a choose your own adventure cartoon, but the animation is solid and the writing is really, really good. With only 8 episodes, and the episodes themselves are very short, the writing just has to be tight to really, really convey the character, to really get you to introduce the characters and understand them and understand their motivations and tell all the things that you need to tell. You've really got to get it out there and get it done well. And man, did they do it well. The voice acting is good. There are just so many little moments that make me chuckle. Because the characters will make little side comments. Someone will say something, and someone will in the background kind of like say quietly their own little comeback. Sometimes not. Sometimes it's like an honest, heartfelt moment. And sometimes it's a smart ass comeback. But man, did I love this. It wasn't perfect. There were some bits of the writing I didn't think meshed well because it is a choose your own adventure. So they had to write multiple outcomes for certain conversations. And I don't think they nailed some of those 100%. But they got it well. They got it right often enough that, damn, this was really, really fun. And I really, really loved it. However, I've seen lots of reviews online, people loving this game. This is not really a good video game because there really isn't that much game to it. You know, the dispatching thing is maybe like a third of that time of the time that you're spending, if that. And the gaming aspects of itself is you just get like an exclamation point on the screen. You click on it. It tells you the mission scenarios. You will pick a hero and send them, or maybe more than one hero. You will see their little icon leave the base, go to the point in the map. The mission will resolve itself, and they will leave and come back to base to rest. And you will then click on that where they finish the mission. You will click on it, and you will see the outcome of the mission. How well did they do? There's a bit more to it than that, but the amount of game there is could have been done on a Nintendo back in 1990, like the original Nintendo, not the Super Nintendo, the basic Nintendo that came out in the late 80s. There's almost no game here, and the stuff you do in the game has absolutely zero impact on the animated bits. Sometimes the animated bits will have an impact on how the game plays. If a character is pissed, they'll refuse to go on a mission. But aside from that, the game has no impact on the story. Nothing whatsoever. Zero. You could remove the game completely and put it up on Netflix. Just pick the core game, the canon game that the writers wanted, and just throw it up on Netflix as 8 episodes. 8 short little half-hour, maybe 40-minute episodes. And you wouldn't really, excuse me, don't rack it. Sorry, need a drink or something. Talking too much today. But you really could get rid of the game completely, and it would work just fine. So in that regards, it's not really a good video game. It's a Netflix cartoon. A really, 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 really good Netflix cartoon. So I kind of have to, and I've been thinking about this over the last few days. I beat it 2 days ago, and it kind of takes me to think about it before I did this. But it's like, was this worth the money I spent on it? I bought it on the Steam sale for their Black Friday sale in November. So it was a couple of months ago, 3 months ago, I think. Yeah, it was like 3 months ago at this point. I'm glad I gave the money to the studio because they earned it. But man, that's a tightrope to walk. Because like I said, there's virtually no game here. You're basically paying $30 to watch a cartoon. However, in that vein, I go to the store and I'll spend $20 on a DVD. So as far as that goes, it is worth the money to me, but I'm not sure it would be worth the money to anybody else. I have watched other people's reviews of this, and it's everyone is overwhelmingly positive about this. Like I said, my one real complaint is that, well, I have 2 complaints. One is that the game and the story don't really impact each other, except for a couple of times when the choices that you make in the game will affect what happens. And the choices you make in the choose your own cartoon stuff will kind of I can think maybe 4 times, where it has enough of an impact to really notice. 4 or 5 times where a decision that you will make will have an impact on the game that you play. The other aspects that I don't like is that because how you play the game has no impact on the story, some of the story events are heavily scripted. If there's a hero on my roster I don't like and I never ever use them, the script has already decided which of the heroes are screw-ups and which of the heroes are better. So if I have characters who perform awesome and who I like and who I play a lot, who should be higher ranked in the team, that doesn't matter. The script has decided where each person ranks on their ability as screw-ups. So, yeah, some elements of the game are, some elements of the story, I mean, are very hard-coded, very hard written into the script, which really doesn't, so it doesn't matter how you play. It's almost better if you, I don't say almost better, but like, if I knew beforehand, I would have made different choices. If I'd known that, these elements are not going to matter whatsoever, why bother? There are heroes I probably wouldn't have even used, or would have used more often, or use less often. Yeah, if I knew then what I know now, I would have made different choices, but not because, not because I would have thought it would have made a better story, but because it's like, why bother? I chose, when I chose my story elements, I kind of chose the things that I liked the best, or that I thought fit the best. And in some of those cases, that's where the writing really shone, because there were times that I had to make a decision, pick one of these two options, and I really, really had to fight. It's like, and think. I had to pause, because you have a limited amount of time to make those choices. So I had to hit the pause button and sit and think. It's like, this is a tough choice. I can't just flip one of these off, and, randomly click a button and be happy with it. I really, really had to think. And, it's like, damn, these are tough choices. And that's, that shows how good the writing is. That I, some of the choices were easy, but a lot of, some of the choices that I made were really difficult because of how good the writing was. If I have to, make a choice between, being mean to this person or being mean to this person, not giving any specific examples, but like, that's an emotion. These people made me feel emotions, to the point that I liked these characters and I worried about them. So, yeah, I have my criticisms. I would not have given this a 10 out of 10 because of the criticisms that I have made. But yeah, for a game, I would probably give it a very, very low ranking. But as, a piece of art, I'd give it a 9 out of 10. This is a work of art. It really is. And if you don't want to fork over the money for a game, find someone on there who's got a video on YouTube of them playing it, so you can watch all the animation. Man, this is a really well written thing, and again, well written, well animated. I can't say enough praise about this team who did this. They deserve my money. So, as always, thanks for watching. As always, my stuff is crap, and until next time, good hunting.